Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and it looks like Link2's got a new tweet here. Ripple partner Tranglo expands in the Middle East through collaboration with Lulu Money, simplifying cross-border transactions. They do have Ripple private equity on the Link2 platform. They are one of my sponsors. The link's in the top of the description. Go check it out. You have to be accredited, by the way. eGreg Crypto. eGreg Crypto has gotten very aggressive on this Friday. He says macro go level around $1.30 to $1.60 is the gateway to start hitting our preset targets. Now, when I saw these targets, I was like, oh, no, this is funny. $2.80, $3.30, 5, 7, 10, 13, 15, 17, 22, 27, 33, 50, 70, $100, $250, etc. until we stabilize around $10,000. Well, you know, according to Mark Phillips' article, XRP was designed for $10,000. But I thought this was funny. It's like, wow, you hit just about every number that you could possibly hit here. As I say all the time, I am no chart guy. But I like looking at what some of the chart guys say, and sometimes they just make me laugh. All right, here's the debt ceiling thing. I've seen this movie before.
Buddy in Washington. Ms. Tausche, good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. It has been nonstop down here. Negotiators, we can say, are moving closer to a deal to cap federal spending for 2 years in exchange for lifting the debt ceiling. But House Speaker Kevin McCarthy notes no deal has been reached, and some Republican aides have suggested big items are still outstanding. We should note the budget cuts would spare the Pentagon and veterans, according to a person briefed on the talks. That's making the challenge that much greater to reach a certain level of desired cuts for non-defense spending. To get more savings, negotiators are now discussing dialing back a portion of the $80 billion allocated to the IRS under the Inflation Reduction Act to ramp up tax enforcement. Two officials called it a live issue and one that would help preserve some social programs that are important.
Okay, so the gist of it is that your Congress, for probably the 50th time in my life, is now going to come out and present themselves as some sort of heroes because they increased the debt limit so that we can now go into, instead of $30 trillion in debt, we can go into what? Another 20 trillion in debt, and none of them will ever do anything about the spending. That's all BS. They never do. Not going to happen. This thing is going to end badly, or it's going to roll into a new system of some sort, or both, or some combination of both. I've always believed that this digital asset space was created to roll this nightmare into a new system. But I've always been afraid that the people that didn't see it coming would be just destroyed financially, while the people who did might be some of the wealthiest people in the history of the world. My goal is to be one of them. Now, Jim Rickards says the banking crisis is far from over.
So the headlines now are Fed solved the problem, FDIC rose to the occasion, crisis is over. That's completely false. That is what everyone's saying. That is how the stock market's reacting. This banking crisis is far from over. All the dominoes never fall at once. They fall sequentially, and sometimes there are time gaps between them, and everyone says, oh, all good. It's not all good. You have to look behind the curtain of the international monetary system, understand what's actually going on. These failures are symptoms more so than the real problem. The real problem has to do with tight money. Interest rates are 5%. They're going to be, 5.25% soon. At least that's the target rate for Fed funds that the Fed sets. But that is a year or just over a year ago, March 2022, they were zero. So you go from 0 to 5.25% in about 1 year. That's extraordinary. So the headlines now
are extraordinary.
Fed solved the
pause that. Then look at this. The United States credit rating has been demoted from AAA to AA plus by China's top rating firm. Enjoy the show and grab some popcorn. I agree with that. Grab some popcorn, because however this story ends, I don't think it's going to be, last time I was on an airplane, actually it was when I was flying into Las Vegas for XRP Las Vegas. I don't know what it was that week, but there was a lot of wind across this country, and it was a windy landing, and I don't like being on planes. And I remember talking to the cool guy, and he said it was a windy landing for him too. I think this is going to be a pretty windy landing altogether. Now, yesterday, I was actually making hamburgers on the grill, and I was watching this Monica Long interview with CoinDesk, and I grabbed this clip.
We do know that the judge issued an order very recently that pertained to which documents in the case would be kept under seal and which ones would not. Very importantly, at least in our view, Bill Hinman's emails will be revealed. They'll be made public in the coming weeks. And we think that's significant because Bill Hinman, when he was acting director of CorpFin at the SEC, he gave a very famous speech in 2018 where he said that he saw, or the SEC saw, that Ether did not look like a security because it had been sufficiently decentralized. And now we're going to, through the revealing of his emails, we're going to get more insight into what went into that decision.
Tell us a little bit more about these Hinman papers. I know we want to get more insight into.
By the way, isn't it amazing that all of a sudden CoinDesk wants to find out about all this? For freaking 3 years we were uncovering all this stuff, and they didn't lift a finger to try to help. Not one finger. They just kept talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Went into that decision, but once we get that insight, what could it mean for your case?
It's to be determined, just by the court, of course, what ultimately they will decide in the case. The ruling on the Hinman emails, we think, is certainly a win for transparency, where the crypto industry at large is really seeking clarity from the U.S. We think that this transparency will go a long way, and then ultimately, of course, the ruling in our case.
Wow. So now, Brad Garlinghouse said this thing. He thinks this thing's over in weeks, and he referenced the Hinman emails in the same breath. Now Monica Long's doing the same thing. My antenna's up. He said there would be something. It would shock people, but I believe there must really be something that's going to shock people because they keep on bringing it up. John Deaton said Monica Long's over the target when she says the unsealing of the Hinman emails is a win for transparency. When we read these emails, drafts, the speech, and comments by SEC senior staff, people will ask, why did Hinman and a few others insist on this lawsuit? Well, look what's happening, folks. And this is pretty, I'm pretty sure this is a result of really uncovering ETHgate and the whole thing. Tipsy Tiger, still Tiger Mike. SEC actions flip-flopping on Hinman emails and 7 court orders demanding the SEC hand those emails over have caused the agency to change its disclaimer language when its officials speak to the public. Ripple is changing the game. I agree. Check this out. This is a guy who's an attorney. He's a law professor at UNLV Law. Okay. Let me see if that's the same one in Los Angeles. Let me see what this is. It says this account doesn't exist. What? Huh. Okay. I was wondering if that's University of Nevada at Las Vegas, the same University of Nevada at Las Vegas that back in the 90s that I loved watching college basketball, Duke versus UNLV. That was some basketball. But anyway. He says you might have noticed that the SEC recently changed its disclaimer language when officials speak to the public. It now includes a statement that the remarks are in their official capacity. This is probably in response to the Ripple Labs discovery dispute. Wow, folks. that means that we've changed the whole playing field. And here is Jay Clayton. And I'm assuming that this is recently from Tim.Fire Gary Gensler. Check this out.
Well,
this is from the man who CNBC treats him, and he acts like he's an innocent bystander and was not SEC commissioner for years and couldn't have actually done something proactive instead of maybe doing things in his own self-interest for crypto.
Let's try and look at it as a little bit of a positive, because as we've talked about before, crypto, let's call it a technology that enables some new products, a technology that may enable a lot of products we know to function better. Crypto has not been handled well by the industry or frankly by the regulators.
You were a regulator. A-hole, as my 10-year-old would say, you were the regulator. You had the chance to handle crypto the right way. You chose to do what we uncovered, which is ETHgate.
Basis. And that we've talked about is because it emerged globally and emerged outside the financial system. So what does this report say? It says financial instruments, whether they're classified as securities or commodities, that they're going to touch the retail public, that are going to be part of our ecosystem. They need to be regulated as we know well. And it's really a principles-based report. It says, look, these are the principles that should apply around the globe. And they're pretty straightforward. They're ones we know. You got to protect customer assets, segregation, conflicts, and the like.
So now he's going to work on it. Now, let's just remind you, because Jimmy Valley had put out, this is a clip that we uncovered back during ETHgate. And this is one of the more, I guess, shocking, since we're talking about shocking today. This guy is Stephen Narioff. This was the guy that was he was an attorney, I think. And he was the guy that was he'll tell you what he was in charge of, but he was in charge of taking Ethereum, which was a security, is, who knows, and keeping, in his own words, trying to keep he and others out of jail for issuing Ethereum and doing the ICO. Listen to him. And while you listen to it, remember, these are the guys that Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman have let get a free pass.
But he said to me, he said, the problem is our lawyers are telling us this is an illegal securities offering, which in fact it was. So I was charged with trying to figure out a very simple thing. Raise money and not go to prison. Right? Orange is not my best color, by the way. So we were, he held off, these guys are like wolves, right? I mean, the founding team of Ethereum wanted to move. And one of the guys actually even said to me, I don't really care about prison. I'm a Canadian citizen.
So they don't care about prison because they're a Canadian citizen. There are 3 Canadians I know of that were on the Ethereum team. One's Joseph Lubin, one is Vitalik Buterin, and one was Gavin Wood. So I'm assuming one of those, no, I think there was one other, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. But one of those 4 or 5 guys does not care about prison, and he's not worried about the U.S. regulators because he's a Canadian citizen. And so their attitude is F the United States. And these are the same people that later Bill Hinman and Jay Clayton are going to help have a free pass.
And can we somehow say that this is not a security, it's not a currency, but somehow...
And it's important to note, folks, these are the people that they gave a free pass while they intentionally dropped a lawsuit on the guys from the United States. And I'm not saying this is a country thing. I'm not saying anything bad about Canada. I'm just saying, look at the character of these guys. They don't care about the laws, okay? Wherever they were from. It wouldn't matter if they were from South Africa. They don't care about the laws, but these are the people that the SEC aligned with, almost like similarly to how the people who seem to not care about the law, like Sam Bankman-Fried, that's who the SEC was and Gary Gensler was having planning sessions. That's who the CFTC was having planning sessions with. That's who freaking the White House was having planning sessions. Well, it was the same thing in this case. It was the CFTC and the SEC that were planning with these guys.
This is a good baby service. Head of the SEC is a gentleman by the name of Joe Grunfest. If anybody's familiar with the SEC, he's probably the most prolific chairman of the SEC of the last 75 years. And sheepishly the next morning said, I said, after our third drink last night, we came up with this concept, and I said we, because I didn't want to say me, and I said, can we say this is a good, because...
So I want you to think this through for a minute. This guy's over drinks with Vitalik. Well, Vitalik doesn't drink, so he's having drinks, and he's trying to come up with some BS that they can rationalize to Joseph Grunfest, and in turn he can rationalize it to the SEC. So they come up with this bull, you know what, as my 10-year-old would say. Oh, we'll call it a product. Ether will be a product, and that way we can do an ICO and raise money and skirt securities laws. And he turns around to Joseph Grunfest and says, I think that's a great idea. Then they go to the SEC. They agree. They think that's a great idea. They've just turned BS by twisting and turning things and rationalize them into a non-security offering, and it's all bull.
Actually forms some kind of function if you have to send it and you have to use this gas to send it. And I said, I'm sure it doesn't work, right? Okay, that's fine. And I got a pause for about 10 seconds, ready to say that was the stupidest idea I've ever heard. And his response was, that's brilliant.
So he didn't think he was going to buy his BS, but he did buy the BS.
Said, I think that could actually work. Spoke to some folks at the SEC. They loved the idea. They thought that actually made a lot of sense. And that's the genesis of what's called today. Has everybody heard of what a utility coin is?
I mean, what a joke. Speaking of jokes, listen to this about Ethereum fees.
A screenshot of somebody, I think Rasu, or somebody aped into 84 ETH into a meme coin, paying 64 ETH in gas. Like, can you just imagine those numbers, that fee, 64 ETH to buy 84 ETH of a meme coin. And another person has like $50 on their MetaMask and they can't get it off because the fees are too high. So, does it just basically make the system unequal to those that can't afford to play? And that becomes like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 players based on dollar values and how much.
There's Rand Nooner, he's the guy that has always just never quite gotten XRP, but he's sitting there shaking his head. He's got to be thinking, what a moron I have been. Or maybe he has not been a moron. Maybe he's like some of these others and has just benefited from what he knew was BS. Wrath of Kahneman put this out. The Atlanta Fed released a report regarding Web3 and finance that mentions Ripple. They describe XRP as an international payment medium or wholesale settlement coin. Wholesale settlement is interesting context. Anyway, then the Cowboy Crypto, who is the official Cowboy, the digital asset investor channel, says Bank of International Settlements, source BIS, Ripple provides various services. XRP is roughly envisioned as an international payment medium. Here's the Atlanta Fed report. It's in my neck of the woods. I want to say that, don't quote me, but I want to say at one point Greg Kidd said that he went and visited the Atlanta Fed about Ripple and XRP. Let's finish with this clown show. This is a quote from Michael Saylor. Bitcoin is going to be the last crypto asset standing in the U.S., and it's going to be the winner. Michael Saylor. It's going to be fun watching this nut go down in flames. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Ethereum's a joke, Bitcoin's a joke. This is the XRP show, and it always has been.